So thank you for coming to this Inform Your Community Craftivism event. My name is Mike. My pronouns are he, him. My shirt is it says ATM on it, but this is a shirt for the band Bodega. I saw them last night, so that was kind of cool. Uh, I am a middle-aged, maybe more than middle age, bald man with a short beard and glasses. My pronouns are he, him. Closed captioning is enabled and can be turned on by participants. At Inform Your Community, we offer events that combine important, impactful information with having fun. Visit us at informyourcommunity.org. You can find social media links on the bottom of our website. Tell your friends to sign up on our mailing list. It's at the top right of our website at informyourcommunity.org. And of course, you can donate using our donate link at the top right of the page. If you're watching the recording of this video, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and comment on YouTube. We'd love to hear what you think of our crafts, events, and to see your finished products on social media. This event is part of our Craftivism program where adults learn different art techniques while discussing relevant social issues. Today's topic is citizenship.
Hey.
Understanding citizenship and what it means to be part of something greater than yourself is an important topic for many reasons. For example, being part of the United States means you have access to a lot of resources. For example, there are 423 national parks registered with the U.S. National Park Service. And according to the U.S. Census Bureau, over 90% of Americans have health care, but that still means 8.6 of Americans are without health care. So I am here to help with tech issues and help monitor the chat. Throughout the craft, if you have any questions or comments on the craft or the topic, please feel free to unmute yourself or talk or write in the chat. And we'd love to see your work in progress, so feel free to show your project to the camera as you make it when it's complete. And I'd like to take a moment to introduce our crafter, Stacy. Stacy will help us with learning our art technique today, which is mosaic making. Stacy, tell us more about the technique we are learning about today.
Well, thank you, Mike, for that introduction. And my pronouns are she and her, and I have salt and pepper short hair, wearing an orange shirt, and my background is kind of an eclectic mix of like office supplies. So I'm so grateful to be here, and thank you all for being here. Today, we're going to learn about mosaic making, and we are going to be designing our mosaics with pre-cut glass mosaic tiles, and we're going to be putting them on a wood box. And so ultimately what we're going to make is something along the lines of this, but we will see it go through a few different stages. And of course, there's lots of things you can do with mosaics. So I'll show you some of that as well. When I thought of what art technique to use for today's craft, for today's topic of citizenship, I like to compare this idea of mosaic. Of course, it's often talked about how the United States is a mosaic. And so it was an easy match for topic and art technique that you're going to learn today. So before we begin, and I know Mike put it in the chat already, there's some things that you're going to need. So, and everybody across the board will want to have a wet rag handy, or maybe a paper towel, and that's to clean up the glue and the grout later on. It'd be great to have a bowl. So I have my wet rag right now in my bowl. It shouldn't be like crazy wet, but like damp. It's good to have a cup of water, which I have here, and a spoon, preferably a teaspoon. I have a half teaspoon, which is also fine. If you have our kit, you will have received this cute box, which is wood. So we'll be working on that today, and everybody got those mailed out for free who registered a week in advance. You will also have gotten a bunch of other items in your craft kit that would have been included some glue, some grout powder, about 10 small tiles and 4 large tiles. Everybody should have gotten. And I'm just laying them out in my other camera view that you can see over there. There's going to be a little sandpaper, 2 popsicle sticks, very small ones, and a few sticks. And the popsicle sticks are for stirring the ground, for popping the bubbles at the end. I'm sorry, the wood sticks are for that, and the popsicle sticks are for helping to spread the grout and the glue later on. If you don't have your kit, don't worry. We are not going to be leaving you out. What we want you to have Actually, if you were able to purchase it in advance, you could have whatever base you want. Wood base, ceramic base are often the best things to use because they're nice and sturdy. They'll last a long time. Glue, pretty much white glue is usually great. Any kind of glue. It doesn't have to be a fancy glue. And then mosaic tiles, but these can be repurposed. It could be broken dishes that you're using, right? So any kind of, I once did mosaics. It's actually my preferred art form. I once did mosaics with eggshells because I had heard that that was a thing you can do, and it was really fun to do. So you can really use anything for your mosaic tiles. And then your grout, preferably powdered, but premixed is often considered easier because it's already in the liquid form in the right consistency. Now, of course, you may not have gotten our kit and you may not have gotten those materials. So we still have some fun for you, and you can make your own mosaic just using any kind of paper you have at home. And so what I have here is I have a scissor you're going to want to have. I have a cardboard base. It literally, here's one I was going to recycle. I decided to use it instead. Could be corrugated cardboard, could be an old card that you received from somebody, you were going to throw it anyway, cereal box. And I have some construction paper in some fun colors. And so with the scissor, you'll want to have some glue. Any glue is fine. Again, regular old Elmer's glue will do. White glue is fine. And a little harder, but maybe you've been to a beach recently, is some sand. So if you have some plain sand from the beach, and you can actually add this later, so don't really be too worried if you don't have that. So you can take any kind of colored paper, 2 colors is even just fine, a little bit hard base and glue, and you'll be able to follow along with us just fine. Let's see. And if you did want to color your grout at any time, you can actually use food coloring. I'm sure there's professional things you can use for that too, but you could just use food coloring to color your grout. I actually do not do that. Food coloring stains a lot, so I avoid that at all costs, but you can do it. Just be careful if you do. While you're looking for some materials spread around your house or in our kits, I want to point out a few things about working with glass tiles. They are made of glass, so they can flake, they can chip, they can split, maybe in transit even. So be very, very careful when you handle them. The flakes should be treated like splinters. And if they get anywhere, if you do have flakes of glass, you want to clean it up with a wet cloth to make sure you get all of those. Also, you want to work with a surface that doesn't have too many, where your table is what I mean. Or maybe you're going to use a plate underneath your box while you're working, but you don't want something that's very porous. You certainly don't want wood. The grout will ruin a wood table, for example. So maybe put a plate under there, or a paper plate, or a plastic table or placemat, something that will protect whatever your surface is that you're working on. And don't use something that's porous, because those little flakes of glass that could be there could get into that, and you don't want to do that. The other thing is be careful with pets and kids, of course. This is intended as an adult craft. So I think that's great. A paper plate works perfectly because then you can throw it out right afterwards. So as we're doing this craft, we're going to be sharing some information about citizenship, part of the reason you're here, in addition to learning about this great art technique. But first, I want to get you through this first phase of this technique as soon as possible, because we want to have the glue dry before we do the second part, which is the grouting. So we're going to rush through that part of it, and then we're going to talk about some citizenship topics, in addition to what Mike already told us about. So we do give you a little piece of sandpaper with your kit. We do that usually when we're working with any kind of wood. We just want to make sure there's no splinters that can come from the wood. Usually our crafts have a softer wood, so even if there's splinters, they tend to not be very damaging to anyone. But we like to include that sandpaper just in case, so you can go ahead and do that. And I wanted to mention that we really recommend with this kit, if you have it, that you do one of these patterns essentially. So either the 4 large tiles and then the small tiles, or the big tiles in the middle and then the small tiles on the outside. You certainly can design this different ways, but we know in advance this is what is going to fit on this box. So it's easiest, if you've never done mosaics before, to just start with a very simple pattern. And it'll give you the right spacing, but feel free to play around with another pattern if you like. You definitely don't want to have really more than 1/4 of an inch space between your pieces that you're going to end up putting on your box. That's for if you have our kit or if you're using actual mosaic materials. If you're using your own materials of the construction paper, the nice thing about it is you can go crazy with your pattern. And in honor of Mike, who's doing tech for us, I went ahead and, hey, Mike, can you guess what this is spelling?
It looks like the Knicks is what my guess would be.
It is the Knicks. So I went ahead and cut out some cool letters. Because you're using construction paper, you can make these whatever pattern you want. Typically, mosaics, they come pre-cut into squares. But like I showed you earlier, this is one where I cut the tiles and used whatever shapes they ended up coming into. But then there's another one I made a long time ago, before I had pets and kids, where I made this. And so you can see here, I was very specific in how I cut the tiles, and I used longer pieces for the hair and so forth. So you ultimately with glass tiles can cut them. You would use tools, for example, that look like this. They're called nippers. But for our purposes, we are not going to use those. We're just going to use the plain old rectangular ones. If you're doing your construction paper, any kind of fun colored paper, like I said, even 2 colors is fine. You can actually start going ahead and just cutting it, right? If you're doing squares, that's easy. You just cut little squares, kind of see on my screen, or little rectangles, right? Pretty easy to cut. You can also easily do triangles. And of course, if you want to do more fun shapes, you absolutely can do that as well. So let's see what else. One other thing to keep in mind, and I gave this to folks who had the kit. We gave this to folks who had the kit because most mosaics have at least some element to them that they're balanced. It's symmetrical. So keep that in mind. Our kit is going to be symmetrical in some way. If you're doing your paper mosaic, also, you may want to consider making some parts of it symmetrical. So in my case, I'm going to have the Knicks letters ideally, and then I'm going to use the pieces around it in maybe a symmetrical way. It's kind of a traditional mosaic, has some symmetrical portions to it. So let's see. Great, you're working. If you have your construction paper or whatever colored paper, you can start working on that. Let's give you a little bit of tips about your base. And I'm going to mention to not start gluing until I tell you to do it. Okay, so hold off on gluing because there's a lot of information to share. And if you start gluing, then what's going to happen is your glue is going to dry. You'll have to glue all over again. And it may end up with a very bumpy surface. So this is kind of smooth on top, as you can see. If you end up with a bumpy surface, it makes the process harder, and it doesn't have as nice of a finish in the end. So hold off on gluing until I tell you some things. So you need enough glue to cover the bottom of the tile that you're going to put on. You're better off putting on a little bit more glue than less glue, but you definitely don't want to have so much glue that when you put on the tiles, they squeeze together and there's lots of glue oozing out. Because what you want between the tiles is the grout. So if there's a lot of glue there, the grout's not going to be there, and it's not going to have the finished grout evenly all around it, because some of that will just be glue instead. So enough to hold the tile, but not enough to squeeze up in between them. If you get glue anywhere else than where you want, you can absolutely take your wet towel and just wipe it off. It is possible, though, that it will leave a stain. It won't be perceptible to the eye too much. I'm sure I did it, for example, in this box. I don't think you can tell. But if you tried to actually put a stain over this, let's say you wanted it a darker color and you used a wood stain, probably the wood stain would come out uneven because the material does have, let's say, some glue residue or water residue on it. So keep that in mind. What I usually do when I do a larger mosaic project is I will use masking tape, and I will go ahead and just tape the sides. So I'll show you how I would do that real quick. Just use the masking tape and just put it right on the top where the, this is really strong masking tape. There we go. Right, actually I'm going to do it on this box. just right all along the whole side of the box, and that will prevent that glue from going there. Press it down. Masking tape comes up really easy, just like you would if you were painting a house, right? You want to use the masking tape to block off some spaces that you didn't want the paint on. So be sure to work with a flat surface, and because as the tiles have the glue, if you're kind of tilted, the tiles are going to start slipping. You don't want that. If your glue gets too dry, not too dry, but if you decide you don't like it or they slipped, even after the glue, as long as it's before you put the grout on, you can put them up again. But keep in mind that the glue underneath is going to make it bumpy. So when you put a piece back on it to reposition it, it may look a little awkward. So just keep that in mind. Once you've glued it, it's best not to re-glue it. So keep it on a flat surface. Keep an eye that it's not slipping with that glue underneath it. Okay. Also, like I said, if you're designing, if you want a different design than what we showed on these two, go ahead and start thinking about what those design is. You can start laying out those tiles, but don't use your glue yet. I recommend that you use that you do it in rows if you're using our pattern, so you can glue the whole row on underneath. Not yet, but when you do it, you'll glue the whole row and then you'll put the pieces on. You're going to start on one side and then do the opposite side, then the next one, then the opposite. That way you can maintain that spacing very symmetrically throughout. Same thing with the small ones, one here, and kind of alternating putting them down. Another way to do it is one on each side, and then since there's 5, you can do the one in the middle. Then you'll know where to put this one so it's even between them. So always trying to keep that symmetry. Let's see. Also try to avoid getting glue on the top of the tiles. It just makes it a little bit more, it's a little bit more difficult to come off. You have to push it harder to get it off, and it may push out one of the tiles and then it's uneven again. So keeping the glue underneath the tile is best. Okay, so I mentioned a little bit the tiles come in lots of different materials. So, you know, that's an option for you when you're doing this on your own. Our pattern is pretty basic, but if you want to do a more advanced pattern, you can use lots of different materials. Make sure when you're putting your tile down that you're putting it flush to the sides for those outside pieces, so that it's nice and even. You can see how even that is, right? You can almost use it as a ruler. It's pretty straight. So you're going to use the side of the box as your like stop point. Don't let those tiles go farther than the ends of your box. I would say once you do start putting the glue down, you want to put those tiles down quickly. The glue can dry pretty quickly. And I would not wipe off extra glue too much with a towel because you'll get fibers there. If you do have extra glue you don't want, you can always scrape it off with one of the popsicle sticks. And that way you don't have to worry about the fibers getting in. You're going to continue until all your tiles are placed. I'm going to be talking about citizenship, but you're going to be doing your tiles. I'm going to be doing my tiles while I'm talking. Triple check as you're going that they're staying where you want them to stay. Because like I said, as you pick it up, you do this and suddenly the tile slips down. And keep in mind that even spacing between the tiles is super important as well. Okay, I know it took me a while, but I'm finally going to say you can start gluing. So if you have our kit, you have your glue right here. This is going to be a lot easier than you think. You're literally just going to go ahead, put a little bit of the glue on top. I did it in one row. You can see it there. And I'm going to take my popsicle stick and spread it out just a little bit. So you want it, again, enough so that it covers the tile underneath, but not so much that you're doing the whole box. This is a thin layer. It's not going to squish out in between. It's going to dry pretty quickly. And just be careful to cover up your glue. So while you're gluing, I have some topics to share.
Hey,
so,
Stacy.
Yes.
Oh, I was thinking I could share the topics with you, although since Tyler's here, I lost my ability to pin myself. So if Tyler would be so kind to do that, or at least give me the ability to do that, I could start talking about some of that while you're doing the crafting, if that's okay.
That's fantastic. I would love that, Mike. Thanks for taking one for the team. And welcome, Tyler. Thanks for helping out with tech today. Really appreciate it. So I can go ahead and Mike, tell me when you want me
Yeah,
to
yeah.
go.
While you and all of the crafters out there are working on gluing, I guess I'll share some citizenship terms. A citizen is a member of a political community. Um, some ways that people become U.S. citizens include naturalization through marriage in the military, derivative citizenship, and being born within the United States and its territories. Uh, suffrage means the right to vote. So those are two terms. I can go on with some more if you want. It's up to you. I don't know if you want to talk about some crafting stuff now, or you
No,
want
I
to
was
do
just
some
going
more
to say,
terms.
you guys can follow, you folks can follow along. Notice it's everything split evenly, and we can all just keep going with this. I'll keep showing you what I've got here. Um, and yeah, you can keep going. Thanks, Mike.
Sure. So, examples of the values people hold as citizens can be pride in one's country, right? This can be shown by people displaying their country's flag, celebrating their country's holidays, or maybe even naming their children after their country's historic figures. I don't know anyone that's done that. Um,
Mike's alluding to our my children's name. One of my children's names is Lincoln.
Uh, you can be being law abiding. A law abiding citizen is someone who respects and obeys the laws of their society. They strive to live within the legal framework established by their government and refrain from engaging in illegal activities. This includes adhering to traffic laws, respecting property rights, and fulfilling legal obligations like paying taxes. So while we tell you some more about citizenship, please continue to tile. And if you're done, feel free to let us know in the chat so we know when to move on to the next step. So we'll also build in some extra time for drawing while we'll tell you some more about citizenship. Does that sound good? I'm going to keep going.
That sounds great. I really appreciate it. Please do.
Sure. Specifically, let's talk about some important dates related to citizenship. Ratification of the first 10 amendments of the Constitution or the U.S. Bill of Rights happened in 1791. This gave citizens more confidence in the new government and contained many of today's Americans' most valued freedoms. Other amendments were later added to the Constitution, such as the 15th Amendment granted suffrage to African American men, the 19th Amendment granted suffrage to women, and the 26th Amendment lowered the voting age to 18. Remember, suffrage means the right to vote. In 1965, President Johnson signed the Voting Rights Act, which addressed legal barriers to African Americans voting at the state level. This became one of the most successful civil rights measures in U.S. history, and it vastly increased voter turnout.
Well, that is absolutely wonderful. You hooked us up with telling us all those facts. I think I just dropped an N on the floor. I might have to find that later.
Hey, if you drop the N, then it just spells kicks. Nobody will know.
That is one nice thing about mosaics, to be sure, is that um, nobody knows what you intended to do. And so it is a nice, a very, I want to say, fixable, um, fixable craft activity, right? Because nobody knows. So if I just put kicks here, although you might be a little disappointed if it says kicks instead of nicks, but it does say kicks now. Did I spell it right?
I'm just putting the N in there in my head, so it's okay. It's like one of those brain teasers where you just add in the words that don't actually exist in the sentence.
Exactly.
So
And I'm assuming that our crafters are still going to be going, and while they're still working on theirs, and again, you really want to put all of your tiles on, just doing that same process, put the glue down, put the tiles, put the glue down, put the tiles, do them parallel. Same thing if you're using your own paper, you can do it that way. I know if you're using paper, you don't have grout, but that's where the sand comes in later, and trust me, it's going to look cool. But I do want to give you a few tips on working with grout, because that is also kind of a, it's an easy technique to fix, but there's a lot of things to know so that you can fix it later on, right? So with grout, we have to understand that grout is the thing that's going to help our tiles be held together. So if we just have this box like this, and actually I'll show you a finished one. By the way, I do also have to mention, and you're all going to laugh at me, I did this one upside down. So I hope none of you have done that. If you did do it upside down, you still have
Nobody
time to
knows it's
fix it.
supposed to be upside down. Maybe
No, it
it's
still
a
looks
special
pretty.
kind of box where you can't figure out how to open it because it's upside down. It's a
Exactly.
secret box.
Exactly. Yes, the plausible deniability. I love it. So here is the craft with the tiles without the grout. Now, the glue is obviously holding it into place, but the grout helps a lot because right now, all this takes is somebody just popping it off. And this is going to, each of these tiles could just easily pop off, which is good because it means you can fix a mistake, but it's bad because you worked so hard. Why do you want those tiles to pop off? Additionally, when you add the grout, it just seems like such a cool effect and it makes the colors of your tiles pop that much more. So I'll show you on this. Look how the colors pop so much nicer with the contrasting grout. So that grout is really important in a few ways. You can also color the grout, like I said. Grout is essentially a cement mixture, a cement grade mixture. And the basic ingredients of grout are kind of a polymer cement, sand and water, essentially. There is unsanded grout. I don't recommend the unsanded grout. I do think that the sanded grout works better. Both it gives a nicer finish, a more professional finish. But also I think the sand in the grout helps to push it down. That's going to be super important when we get to grouting. By the way, do not start grouting yet because your tiles aren't done yet. So don't grout yet. We're going to go through these tips first while you're working. Once mixed together, then there's actually a chemical hardening process that begins. So we haven't mixed our grout yet. We have our grout powder, but we're going to later on, we're going to put some water in that. And polymers are most often already in the grout. Sometimes, especially actually in other countries, the polymer is sold as a separate product. And it's really important, I think, to use a disposable container when mixing the grout. It's not the hardest thing to clean out, but it's super easy if you can just dispose of the whole thing when you're done with it. Let's see. Yep. So actually, we're going to mix our grout right in our bags. That way you can dispose of them later. But you can also use a bowl to do it. And obviously, if you're making your own mosaic, you're going to not need grout at all. We're going to find a workaround for that. By the way, just for those of you who are gluing on paper, I want to mention was supposed to say next, and I said that you have a lot of flexibility with how you do the quote tiles in paper. It's because then you can cut your mosaic paper pieces to whatever size you need to fit in those spots, right? So I can put in a little yellow piece down here to fill in that spot. And even if you're working with paper, you're still going to want to leave a space in between. Okay, so back to some grout basics. As far as the consistency, as far as the spacing of the grout, you want about a quarter of an inch. You could have as little as 1/8 of an inch. I would say for new people, 1/4 of an inch is a bit easier, and that's what I have on this one. But you can see on this one that it's much closer together. The closer together the tile pieces are, the less room for the grout to get down, the harder it is to push the grout down, and then you end up with more air bubbles. So we'll get to that in a minute, but I would say about a 1/4 of an inch is great. The grout needs to be a consistency that can squeeze in between the tiles. You don't want it to just like lay on the top, because like I said, it'll get air bubbles. And the way that happens is as the grout is on the top of it, which you'll see in a little bit, if it doesn't have the room to sink, it'll just stay on top. But as it dries, it will sink. And as it sinks, you may not have pushed down enough. And so the air will come up as the grout is going down, and you'll get air bubbles in it. And then it doesn't look as nice. Good news is, even if you get air bubbles, you can fix those later by just using some more grout on those. If the grout is too liquidy, it would end up with more air bubbles as well, as it just kind of pours out the sides, or maybe it seems like it's sitting at the right spot and you've pushed it down enough, but maybe you haven't, and it's still kind of laying on top of there. It'll eventually just ooze down, and then there'll be the air bubbles. If it's more liquidy, it will also be more likely to crack, which is not great. Again, just like the air bubbles, that's fixable later. And if the grout is too hard, it will be hard to push it through. Again, good thing is you can fix that by adding in more water to the grout. So lots of fun stuff there. Even if you do make it too liquidy, you can set it aside, and it will actually just start having that chemical reaction and dry on its own. And as it dries and gets to the right consistency, which you'll see what that is in a minute, you'll be able to grout it and use it. So if you put too much or you put too little, it is fixable. If you're really nervous though about it, you may want to, instead of mixing it in your little Ziploc, you may want to put it in half of this into a bowl. That way you have some left over to fix it later. And you can always watch the video again to refresh your memory on how to grout. Grouting actually is the most exciting part, and I'm going to show you the stages. So hopefully at this point you've got your glue, your tiles glued on. They're drying. Don't keep moving them. They're fine the way they are. Don't worry. Leave them alone. And so they're going to start drying pretty quick. That glue is going to dry pretty quick. And you can see actually on mine, so this is the one I just did a few minutes ago. Already it's still holding them. I can do it sideways. It's not really moving anywhere. So that glue dries pretty fast. And it's going to go, eventually, it will look like this with your grout on it. And then it's going to look like that. So to me, this is the coolest part. Like, yeah, okay, gluing it, that's fine. But the coolest part is the grout, precisely because you turn it from this, which is unrecognizable. You don't know what's underneath this, to this beautiful masterpiece that you've made. And I always tell people that actually this is much easier to do than mosaics are. They look so amazing in their finished product, but they're actually much easier to do than people think. So it is the most exciting part is this mosaic. The other thing I'm going to tell you is that you are going to have to press down on your mosaic much longer than you think you need to. You're gonna be like, oh, good, it's all done, it's all covered, it's fine. But you have to push it into the sides pretty gently, push it through the crack pretty gently. So we're going to keep going over it and over it and over it, even when you think you're done, to get it so that when it dries the first time, it is exactly the way it should be. Okay. So you have to have a bit of patience with that process. So I'm ready to start doing that. And we're going to give, hopefully maybe Mike, if he's okay with it, a chance later to tell us more about citizenship, or maybe Tyler will help us out. But we're ready to start grouting. If you have your own that you're making with the paper, you can kind of ignore this part for now. And ultimately what you're going to do, either now or at a later time, is as you finish this, and it might take you longer because maybe you have a bigger piece that you're working with than what we're working with our little box and our 14 pieces of tile. Eventually, instead of grouting, what you're going to do is make sure there's just a little bit of wet glue covering in between each of these pieces, okay? And if you have that sand, and I'll show you now what that would look like, is you're essentially just going to sand right over it. Keep in mind, you don't want to get glue on your paper letters. You also don't want to, you want to make sure that the whole space in between the letters is covered. And I'm just doing that a little bit more right now. And then you want to make sure you have something to pour the extra sand into. And what you'll start to see is that you get that grout effect from the sand. So it's still a little wet, so you're seeing the glistening there. But really, that once that glue dries, which it will before the end of the event, you're going to be able to see that that's sand, that's now sanded. So it will very much look like you did a mosaic just out of paper. If you don't have the sand now, don't worry about it. Next time you go to the beach, just grab some more. Grab a little extra to take home with you. Bring a Ziploc. Okay, so to mix the grout, important thing to remember is less water is better. That's why we have that teaspoon. You want to put in as little water as possible to start with. In theory, it should take 1 teaspoon of water to mix this with this grout that you've got. But, and we did measure the grout, so it should be that. But just in case, I'm going to do half a teaspoon of water. So here's me, half a teaspoon, and I am going to take my stick and I am going to start stirring it. That is going to start dissolving pretty quick. Okay. Now, as you're using your stick in this bag, just be careful not to poke the bag. That wouldn't be great because then your grout will ooze out. So, but you can go ahead, and it seems like for me, that was not enough, that half teaspoon. So I'm going to put in more. So you're just going to keep doing this and keep doing it. Okay. So slowly keep adding more water and go ahead. And
You may want to show that on camera. I don't know. You've got it on one camera. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, there you go. Sorry. Okay. So keep doing it. I can feel it. The top part's more mushy. You see, it's getting a little mushy. That's great. I'm going to go ahead and put 1 more teaspoon. And I 1 more half teaspoon. I think that's going to do it for me. And that will give me enough liquid in here. So you see how very little it takes. As I'm doing it, I can even mush it like this. And you can always add more as you need it. So if the whole bag is the right consistency, you can even just cut a little corner on it and ooze it out from there. Or you can take your popsicle stick and scoop it out. Okay, so I'm probably going to try both ways just to show you. Okay, but right now I'm still mixing it up. Okay, so I'm going to take my popsicle stick and I'm going to show you on my finished one, not finished one, the one that's all dried. And again, this one's pretty dry now too. I'm going to go ahead and take my popsicle stick. I'm going to take some of the grout and now check out that consistency. So you can definitely see it's liquid. Can you guys see it? It's definitely liquid.
It looks like toothpaste, kind of. No, a little less.
A little more liquidy than toothpaste, but you see that it sticks onto this pretty well. And I'm going to say that's the right consistency. It will eventually come off if I like really do that. And I'm going to start.
But you're saying you could hold it over your head and it won't drip down.
Yes. 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 Yeah. So that's the right consistency right there. You want it so that it's spreadable, but it's not dripping all over the place, that you really have to move it around. Now, I'll tell you my secret. You're probably not going to love this, but I hate using the popsicle stick for it. Honestly, I just use my fingers. I much prefer that. I have a lot more control over it than if you use the popsicle stick. So I highly recommend that. And I'm going to start doing that in a minute. The other thing you could do is you may have seen these. They're actually made for like cooking. You could actually put this on there and start spreading it out with something like this. But I just, honestly, I just use my fingers. So, and as I'm doing this, I'm noticing that it's still mixing. I'm still mixing it as I go in because the stuff on the bottom was a little harder. By the way, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. But really what we're going to do now is just keep on putting it on it with our popsicle stick. I'm going to transition to use my fingers. It's messier, but I have a lot more control. And what you're trying to do is push it in between. Eventually, and in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and put a whole bunch on here to expedite things so that I can show you that really what we're going to do, as Mike ends up telling us a bit more eventually, is we're just going to keep doing this. And it's going to seem like, oh, I'm done. I don't need to do it anymore. But here, I don't know if you guys can see it. Do you see that? Where is it? There is an air bubble hole right there. You see that, Mike?
Yeah, I see that.
So if you don't keep doing this and keep doing this and keep doing this, you're going to get those holes as it dries. And the thing is, even as you're moving the grout around, you're going to start seeing the air bubbles. And, oh, I have to do that a little bit more. So keep pressing it in. And your goal is to have this whole thing slightly covered, but the space in between, you're going to start seeing it ooze out the sides. And we'll tell you what to do with that in a minute. But for now, I want to just see if I've touched on everything I was supposed to touch on here while I am finishing this part up.
Sure. I have two things I guess I could say about
Please.
citizenship. So, two other things. One, citizenship does not mean nationality. Those are two different things. You can be a national of one country and a citizen of another. And another interesting thing is that you can be a citizen of more than one country. For instance, I am a citizen of the United States and of Poland. So
That's cool.
there
That's
you
cool.
go.
I think that's EU. You end up being able to go to all the EU countries in that case, right?
That's the citizenship for Poland does include the European Union, which are some benefits for citizenship there. So there
That's
you go.
it's cool to that is cool to know. By the way, just I want to mention real super quick is as you're putting the grout in, be careful not to push too hard because you folks, this one has been dried for a really long time. But if I did this on this one that's like just barely dried, I can literally just pop off one of those tiles. And then that's a whole nother thing to have to deal with. If you do get it on the side, you can go ahead and just take it off the side, put it back on the top, take it off the side, put it back on the top. And if the grout gets on the side, you don't really, you can start to see it could stain a little bit. See there, it's got a little stain. So we don't want to get that on the side too much. You're also going to start to notice as you push it in that you might need more from your grout. So go ahead and keep adding it. Let's see what else. If anybody has any questions or comments, let us know in the chat. Let's see. I've covered a lot while I was talking to you all. Checking my notes, getting some more of this grout. I actually think the grout on the bottom of mine needs a little bit more water to get it the consistency I want. So I'm going to put another teaspoon in there. I'm going to take my stick and I'm going to stir it up some more. As you're doing this, also make sure that your tiles are staying in the right location. That's super important. Let's see. As it's drying, make sure that you're getting the bubbles out. I say I'm going to put some more on here. I'm going to show you in a second. So this time it's a lot more watery. You can see that it's really liquidy. If I turn this over, it's going to start oozing down. You see it just spilled there. So that was, let's say that was too
Probably
watery.
don't want to hold it over your head at that point.
No, I definitely do not. So keep pushing it down. Like I said, it's easier if you are using your fingers, frankly, and you'll start to see that as you're pushing it, you're not getting any more air bubbles. You don't seem to need any more grout. You seem to be filling up that space just fine. Once you're in that situation, you're going to want to go ahead and start putting some of that grout on the side. And here's what we're going to do on the side. I'll use my popsicle stick. So I'm going to take just the extra grout I have on top very gently. I'm going to push it over to the side with my popsicle stick. I can do this with my fingers as well. You may already have some grout on the side as well because it's been pushed out a little bit. And you're going to take your popsicle stick or your fingers, either way works, and gently flush with the side. You're going to try to scoop up any extra. I say gently because you can also pop out one of your tiles this way. So be careful of that. Then if you have some extra on your popsicle stick, you're going to take it to the next side. I'm going to do this one with my finger. I'm going to take all this excess good stuff off the top. And I know you probably thought when you saw a little Ziploc bag of grout that definitely won't be enough, and it's going to be plenty. Maybe you'll even have some to save in case you do get some holes later. So there you go. And I'm just using my finger to keep it nice and flush on the side. And then I'm taking the rest of the extra stuff off. Like I said, it's kind of messy. Taking the extra off, I'm scooping it onto that side. And then I'm scraping it, in my case, with my finger. You might be using your popsicle stick. And then I'm going to the last side. Okay, let's see. So now all my sides are done. I'm making sure there's not too much on that wood. So I'm just scraping off any extra that's on the wood and not on the tile. Again, you can do this with your popsicle stick. Just make sure that it's not popping off any of those tiles as you do it. I don't mind getting a little messy for a mosaic. And let's see here. So I actually think I have enough on mine. I'm going to use my wet towel. So here is what it's going to look like when it dries. And actually, unlike the glue you want to be dry before you wipe it off. But for this, for the grout, you actually don't want it to be dry because as you'll see, rubbing it off when it's completely dry takes a little more elbow grease than it does when it's wet. So I'm going to just take my wet towel. Another thing you can do, by the way, is like jiggle your box a little bit or put it on the table a little bit like that to get the bubbles up. You can do that if you want. And I'm starting with the outside.
So like tap it against the table?
Yeah, tap it against the table so that the air bubbles come up a little bit. You can see any that you missed. I'm going to start removing the grout on the wood on the side with my wet rag, because that's the part I really don't want to stain. It'll affect the way it looks a little bit more than I would like if there's grout on the white. If you were here earlier, we showed how to use the masking tape. Use the masking tape. You can just leave that alone. When it's all dry, you can pull up the masking tape. It'll be a perfect, nice, even grout. So, and I feel like there's so much more I wanted to say. We wanted to say about citizenship, but maybe not. Maybe we covered a lot, which is fine. I know
we covered a lot during the other section, so
I think so. And you know what? We're going to say a bunch in the conclusion too. I bet we have a few more things we're going to say. So I'm ready for the next step. Hopefully you are too. We're winding down here in 5 minutes. This is the stage I call, well, this is finishing the mosaic is what I call this. And you're going to start to see how easy this is, very gently, to take off this top layer. This is my favorite part. It's really when you start to see the beauty of what you just made. You can start to see the colors coming through. Do it one way, then do it the other way. Don't press down too hard because you're going to pull out all that beautiful grout that you just put in there. Then I start to do just one tile at a time to just make sure I get a little bit of that grout off. And as I'm doing this, it's like this miracle that the tile comes out and the colors start showing through. And it's okay. You don't need to be perfect for this now, but you can see such a huge difference that made from before. If you are, if you do let it dry, like you have to go do something like, oh my gosh, I have to go put the kids to bed. I can't finish this now. You absolutely can do this later. This is the one that's been, honestly, this has been hard for like a week. You're going to want to wet it a little bit first. I would say wet the entire top. Think of it like if you've taken nail polish off, and it's been there a while, you put the nail polish remover on first, right? It eats in a little bit to the nail polish, and then you go back again and do it. So same thing here, but you can start to see here. Let's pay attention to this one right here. You can start to see it's coming off really easy, but a bit harder than if you had just done it when it was originally there. So you see, even with this one, it's been hard here for a week. It's going to be fine to eventually get that grout off. It's going to just look just as beautiful as the one I just did. I have one last thing to talk about. If you all can bear with me a little bit more, I just want to mention the real last step of this, other than admiring your beautiful mosaic, is what we call buffering it. Okay, so this one I'm just finishing taking this off, which I'm not going to do while you're on here, but I just wanted to show you that eventually all of this will come off and the grout in between the tiles will stay just fine. But when this is dried, completely dried, when your grout is 100% dry, okay, you're going to go back to this because you can kind of see a difference between these two, the colors, right? This is like dull and this is shiny, okay? So you're going to want to make your dull one shiny, and I call that buffering, okay? Basically, you're going to, it's not going to be the same when I do it now because it's still wet, but once the grout that's in between the tiles is dry, you'll be able to take a damp cloth, very gently wipe this off. That's what I did with this one, very gently wipe this off. Everything's dried, and it's going to be beautifully shiny. You can see those nice colors. You can start to see it here a little bit, the nice colors coming through, but when it's really completely dry, that's when you're going to entirely see it. As I mentioned, mosaics are a very forgiving, easily fixable technique. If you do end up having cracks or you end up having bubbles, you can, even the leftover cement that I have here, I can let this dry, open it up later. Probably the Ziploc part of it might be a little hard to open at that point, but I would just cut this top entirely, open it up again, pour a little bit of water in it, use a stick or whatever, maybe an old a leftover chopstick or something, would stick, and mix it up again. And this is going to kind of resuscitate, so to speak, and you'll be able to do what we've done and just go over the parts where you see bubbles, where you see cracks, let it dry again, buff it again later. It will be beautiful. So it's a very forgiving technique. And as I mentioned, you can use lots of different objects. I used eggshells once. You can use broken plates. You can use found objects, beach glass, seashells. A lot of people do mosaics with seashells. So there's so many different materials you can use in place of these kind of glass tiles. But I like glass tiles because the surface is very flat and easy to have the grout come right off of it. So I'm happy to take any questions if you want to put them in the chat, but otherwise I think we're ready to have Mike take us away and for you all to enjoy the beautiful mosaics that you're making. For those of you who are doing this one, you can start to see, who are doing the paper version, you can start to see here that the glue has dried, and you can see the sand. So it looks a bit like a mosaic right there. So it's a great craft to do with a kid, but an adult can make it very sophisticated and certainly put it in a frame and look absolutely beautiful. So take us away, Mike.
Thank you, Stacy. Thanks also to our wonderful crafters here today. We hope you will continue to learn about citizenship. To help, we will send our event video and infographic in a follow-up email by the end of next week. We encourage you to share with others. Also, please consider committing to a weekly act centered on citizenship. Like, for example, getting informed by coming to this event is a great way to start. We encourage you to research some notable people such as Eleanor Roosevelt and Dred and Harriet Scott. You can encourage citizens in your local town or country to vote during each election, and you could share our infographic from Inform Your Community. Our email will include another brief survey of what you thought of the event itself. Please take the time to respond. Your feedback is very important to us. Please take a moment right now to take our quick poll. It's going to appear in the Zoom chat right now. Great timing. To take our quick poll, because these are not the same questions you will get in your survey. Excuse me. Our schedule for the year is posted on our website at www.informyourcommunity.org. Tickets, materials, and shipping are free for our online crafting events, so please sign up. Remember, only those signed up for a week before the events will receive the kits mailed to their homes. Our next free event is Much to Discuss event, Disability and Accessibility, a game night on Thursday, July 24th at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. To look for and learn about other Inform Your Community events, not only our Craftivism program, but events from other programs as well, please check out our website, informyourcommunity.org. Again, if you're watching this video on YouTube, please be sure to like our video, comment on it, and subscribe in the channel. Also, please consider donating to cover the cost of materials and shipping if you can afford it, as that helps keep our events free for those who can't. Thank you for coming and for helping inform your communities based on what you learned today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. By the way, we don't have our full schedule up yet, but we're going to have that up very soon. So stay tuned for that. We do have a few more events up. And if you're in New York, you can check out our IYC NYC. That's our New York chapter. They're having a few events that you can check out, in-person versions of our online events. So thank you. Hope to see you at those for those who can make it to New York. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Really appreciate it. And you can see how much more elbow grease I need to put into doing this one. So much easier.
You're welcome. I figured as a dual citizen, I have doubled responsibility to talk, ability to talk about citizenship. So.
That's good. That's good. You have to earn your keep, earn your citizenship.
Yep.
Just part of the many rights and responsibilities we have as citizens. I'm sorry your Knicks didn't come out.
Kicks. Hey, you're selling sneakers. I don't know. Or karate. It's good. It's good. It could be used in many ways.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. Really appreciate it. I hope you had a wonderful time at the event and you're going to make a beautiful mosaic. We hope to see them. We hope to see you all at a future event. Thank you, everybody.